We will never turn our back on a single Scot.
We've got to wrestle with those challenges.
This is the same nonsense we have heard time and time again.
This is our country. Let's fix it together.
Hello and welcome to the latest Planet Holyrood. I'm Paul Hutchin, political editor of the Daily Record. Joined this week with three guests. We've got Mark Smith, who's the head of news at the Daily Record. We've got Ben Borland, editor of the Scottish Daily Express, and Hannah Roger, who's the political editor of the Sunday Mail. So we're on the eve of the Trump circus rolling into town. He's going to be here in Scotland for, I think, 5 days. Lucky Scotland. The itinerary has not been confirmed, but I think generally what we're expecting is Trump to fly into Scotland probably Friday night, spend a couple of days playing golf at Turnberry, then at some point make his way to his other golf course in Aberdeenshire, and he'll open a third there, which I think has got some link to his late mother, who was born in Scotland. So, Smitty, it's going to be chaos, isn't it, from beginning to end?
Total circus, an absolute circus, and we all know who the clown is. Mr. Trump. I really wish he would just stay in America and leave us in peace. Now,
You're not proud that he's a Scottish American?
shameful. It's shameful. And he goes on about his mum being Scottish, and she is, but I don't think he's absorbed any of what you might call Scottish values, if there is such a thing. He seems to have absorbed a lot of German values, I think, from his dad. You know, specifically those that might pertain to 39 to 45. But he's not a pleasant man. My thing about Trump is, right, and I would apply this to all politicians, right? Would you trust him with the babysitting, right?
Depends how desperate you are.
I would have to really need a night out in the pub, and I would have to have run through all my neighbours and pals. And even then, I might even reject him for the role. He's a man that should not be near power. However, in saying that, he is the President of the United States of America. You have to respect that office. And I think Swinney and Starmer are doing the right thing in getting him in a room and trying to talk sense into him on a range of issues. On energy, on Ukraine, on Gaza. I pray that Starmer might be a force for good within Trump's bomb scare of a brain. But that's it. I mean, it's going to be enjoyable. It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of protests, which I always like. There's going to be a lot of...
Probably half your pals will be there.
I would hope a lot. I'll maybe recognise some of the protesters from old times, you know, from on the left. But, you know, it's going to be an interesting few days. And, you know, it might just turn out okay for the UK and Scotland if Starmer and Swinney can get Trump on side on key issues. So, you know, it's going to be interesting.
Ben, what's the Express's position? You calling for a Trump statue in Edinburgh?
I don't know about a Trump statue in Edinburgh. I do have one Trump prop that I'd like to bring out. So I'm not sure how many of these actually exist in Scotland.
What does that say? Make the Express great again?
Make America great again. I hesitate to say this isn't mine. This was borrowed from someone else. And as I say, I can't imagine there's many of these in Scotland.
Who did you borrow it from? Brian Epstein?
Jeffrey.
Beatles
manager.
It actually suits you quite
I
well.
quite like
Think
a
you should
red
keep
cap.
it on
No, I
for
think
the
I'll.
duration.
Like I say, I try and maintain a very rigorous neutrality when it comes to politics.
Yeah. Aye, right.
No, I think. I don't know. I mean, Trump is the president. You know, the office, as Mark says, the office of the presidency deserves our respect. I think it's. I don't think it's right that there's these people have a right to protest. I don't like the fact that politicians are kind of egging this protest on. Lorna Slater, Stephen Flynn with his lame joke about washing his hair. You know,
I can't imagine Swinney would be too happy with that joke, given that Swinney's going to be meeting the president.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, that in itself is ludicrous that John Swinney is actually meeting Donald Trump, given John Swinney called for the second state visit to be cancelled, exclusively with the Sunday Mail, by the way. You know, and that was when, 2 months ago?
And also backed Harris as well last year.
Well, yeah, but that aside, you know, since Donald Trump has been elected, he has been so critical of him. He called for the second state visit to be cancelled, said that he wouldn't be welcome in Scotland, and now all of a sudden we're supposed to forget that he said that, because John Swinney, what I have noticed is he's not very good at explaining his previous positions. You know, if you bring things up that he's done or said before, or have been done or said by others in his party, he's quite quick to dismiss it and say, oh, it's different now. And, you know, why is he meeting Donald Trump when he's so critical? Is he a hypocrite?
They're trying to dance on the head of a pin by saying the state visit should be cancelled, but this private visit is okay because it's you know, it's promoting to.
It's the same, you know, it's the same person.
Exactly, it's the same person. It's a presidential visit in all but name. I mean,
Exactly.
try telling Police Scotland that it's not a state visit.
Yeah.
They're having to have 12-hour shifts and 5,000 officers being corralled into providing security, which I think is right. You know, I don't have a problem with this visit. I certainly don't have a problem with the state visit. America's our staunchest, longest, greatest ally, and no matter who the president is, we need to maintain that. I hesitate to use the phrase special relationship, but we need to.
You must accept that Starmer's key role in this, and Starmer has done well in this thus far, I think, is to make sure that he can try and be a good influence on Trump. And you can't have it so that Starmer is Trump's lapdog. You know, there are so many things.
The way it is already.
Well, but there are so many things, I think, where Swinney and Starmer could have a good influence on Trump.
I agree. I think Starmer's, I've said it on here before, since Trump came in, Starmer's actually improved. He now looks the part on the world stage. He's having all sorts of problems domestically, but internationally, since Trump got into the White House, Starmer looks like one of the...
he's been totally sucking up his arse.
Well, I don't know about that.
That nonsense he said, oh, this document, you know, this is an unprecedented letter from the king and we would love to invite... Like, what the hell was that?
Well, he's probably trying to avoid tariffs of 50%.
Well, exactly, and this is a concern as well because, you know, yes, what you're saying, Smitty, about, you know, Starmer and John Swinney, I can't really imagine John Swinney sitting Donald Trump down saying, right, here, you're going to stop doing this and that. He'll just be laughed out of the building. But, you know, if he says something that is going to piss Trump off, you know, could whiskey tariffs shoot up? Could, you know,
that's the danger with Trump, is that you don't know what the effect could be of trying to bring him back down to reality in terms of the impact it could have on for actual jobs, actual economic factors in Scotland and the rest of the UK. It's so important, for example, that the whiskey tariffs do come down and are minimised as much as possible. Folk forget that whiskey is such a massive industry for Scotland. It would be great, however, if as a result of this meeting and as a result of treating him with a bit of respect, he comes down on the side of sanity on that issue. And I think that's why it is a balancing act between Scotland letting him know that his values do not align with many of ours, but at the same time we want him to do the right thing by the global economy.
I just wonder, you know, the fact that a large part of the trip is at Turnberry, if there's going to be some sort of announcement on the Open at Turnberry. If there's going to be just a sort of chink of light on that subject.
The problem is,
you know how important it is to Trump. He's so vain that if there was an indication that his golf course was going to get the Open, you know, they might just reduce the tariffs.
For Turnberry to get the Open, the A77 needs to be improved because they need to get 280,000 golf fans to the Open.
It's not the course; it's how you get to the course.
It's how you get to the course.
It used to be my patch as a junior reporter. And I can tell you, it took you a while to get down to Girvan and beyond from the bustling metropolis of Ayr. And I used to have to hitch a lift from a photographer to get down there, and that was how bad it was. So it's really difficult to get down to Turnberry. I think that's the key thing. Swinney, however, might have an ace in the hole there. He might announce better transport links in the southwest. Now, if that's an outcome from Trump's visit, then we've actually managed to get something good.
Yeah, that's a win.
The Scottish Government's got such a great record on infrastructure projects. I think we might take that.
They could get the 2075 Open when the A77's been due.
like, not that I am advocating for this to happen, but if Donald Trump gave Swinney the Zelensky treatment, it would be quite entertaining.
That would probably be the best story journalistically to come out of
Yes.
this. A sort of on-air spanking.
Yeah. But I
I
don't
don't think
know
that's
what
going to happen. I think that because he's a guest in someone else's country, I just can't see that.
And Swinney will wear a suit and tie. You know, he's not going to
He's not
stand up in
gonna
a
wear
black
his-
tracksuit. You know,
Also, I don't think it won't be televised. I mean, Swinney and Swinney
no,
and Trump's
but
meeting is.
You never know. What could
Never
happen?
know.
I think that-
That's the key with Trump. You never know. Anything could happen this
Yeah,
weekend.
I think he'll probably have some strong words to say about, for example, oil and gas sector, the renewable energy, you know, that kind of stuff. I can imagine us getting some good stories from
I
that.
think the thing is, since Trump came in, his main kind of policies have been economic and the tariffs, and the UK's done relatively well out of the tariffs. So I'm not sure what people are protesting about. What has he done since he?
Just him.
But
He's
what?
horrible.
But what's
Are
he
you
done
serious?
since he?
What has he done?
Well, what's he done since he came in that has
you-
been
are
so
you
objectionable? He's trying to end the war in the Middle East. He's trying to end
by,
the war in
by
Ukraine.
bombing Iran.
By bombing Iran, are we not?
Are we gonna
are
start
we not
this
in
again?
favour of bombing Iran?
I think
No!
I think
He
that-
said,
favourite bombing
he said that
anyone.
he would like end the war in Ukraine after day one.
Yeah, well,
But
he
he's a
clearly
de-
hasn't done that.
But he's trying to, you know.
He's not bloody
You
trying
can't
to.
criticise a guy for attempting to end wars
I would say
and
that-
attempting to,
I feel like
you know,
Smitty can
boost
give us a
the
good
US economy.
rundown of what Donald Trump has
he's,
done.
he's actually been, I think that's been one of his successes. I think he has gone into these conflicts, I think, with a view to getting them stopped, right? So I think he's his heart is in the right place. It's just that he's incapable of doing it because he's a dunderhead, right? But the second point is, these tariffs that he's imposing, he's using economic warfare on the rest of the world, destroying an order that's been built up since 1945 to try and smooth global trade and trying to create a more peaceful world. He has thrown a big, massive spanner in those works, and that is one of the most catastrophic policy decisions of my lifetime. Now,
agreed.
that's not nothing. That is going to destroy a lot of jobs, and it's going to potentially destroy, many, many years of peace between the major powers in the world. That is not nothing. He is probably the most dangerous man on the planet, and people have every right to go out and protest against him. And if it is just tariffs, that alone should be enough for people to tell him he's well out of order. But just his way of being as well. I mean, he's clearly a wrong un. He's clearly got strange ideas about women. He's clearly got strange ideas about ethnic minorities. He's clearly got strange ideas about what constitutes normal human interaction. Mm-hmm. He needs to be told that people do not see him as a good man or a statesman, and I hope that he gets that message loud and clear.
I think part of the danger is the Scottish economy relies on tourism, and it relies in a large part on US tourism, and the message that's going to be beamed back across the Atlantic this weekend is that you're not welcome here. We think you're.
I don't think people are going to take that from.
That is how people take
But
it.
Americans don't, because if there's a sort of negative reaction to Donald Trump, it doesn't mean that we dislike all Americans.
But it kind of implies,
I'm
it
pretty
doesn't
sure
even imply, it
Americans
says that 60% of the electorate voted for Trump, 60% plus, we don't like them.
No, it doesn't.
So
It
we
does
get a
not
lot
mean
of
that.
Chinese tourists, Ben, yeah? Is that agreed?
We
Yeah, get a lot
do,
of
yeah.
So we should turn around to the Chinese and go, Tiananmen Square, great idea. In you come, spend your money. Is that how it works?
Well, no, but that's not what we're saying. I mean, when was the last time there were mass protests in George Square and Edinburgh against
But
the
point
Chinese
is,
government?
you do not allow
The Chinese
a nutter.
government are not coming here.
But there have been Chinese.
Stop waving your hands about.
There have been Chinese leaders here,
But the
Yeah.
point is, you didn't base your foreign policy, you don't base your domestic policy on the fact that a lot of tourists are going to come in. That's got to be a factor. It's a big part of our economy. That is not a get out of jail free pass for Trump, and he might need one of those in the future, I hope.
I think, the goal has to be, don't provide a running commentary on every stupid thing he says over the next 5 days. To focus on narrow objectives like getting the tariffs down, even by a couple of points, and then just hope he leaves as quickly as possible. And, you know, if you need to tickle his tummy, and that's a horrible thing to say, but just do it.
No.
And because otherwise, you know, the economic destruction by tariffs that's probably the worst outcome. I mean, I know whenever we meet Chinese leaders, we always raise, you know, human rights concerns or less. We have to do that, fair enough. But I think it's the economic policies that Trump is pursuing. Those are the dangerous things, and we need to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Will you be out with your MAGA hat waving the old stars and bars?
No. I mean, I will be following it with interest. As I say, I think he's a fascinating character. I really do. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't agree with a lot of things he's said in the past, and I think some of the things he said are pretty odious and not very nice at all. But I mean, he's a huge. He's by far the most interesting politician of this century, I think, and from a news perspective alone, the fact that he's visiting Scotland and not anywhere else in the UK is, I think, is great for us.
I think he wants to be loved in Scotland. I think that's clear. He wants to be loved by the Scottish people, which will make it all the sweeter when we tell him to get lost.
But again, there'll be a noisy minority. The same renter mob who are out in George Square every Saturday, the same crew will be there telling him to get lost. I genuinely think if you go out there into the pubs, into the cafes, into the street, most people say, you know, Donald Trump, give him a chance. He likes golf, he likes whiskey, he doesn't like windmills on the top of every hill, and he wants to get the oil and gas industry going again. That probably chimes with a lot of people in Scotland.
Anna, what do you think? What would success
Yeah, sorry,
look like?
I am actually here, yeah.
What do you think success would look like from the perspective of the Prime Minister and the First Minister in terms of the trip?
No additional tariffs to be added on. I don't think there'll be any sort of, you know, yes, the UK's already made a deal, so I don't think that Donald Trump's going to turn around and reduce any tariffs, but as long as he doesn't add anything on, that should be okay.
No public bollocking.
Well, no Zelensky treatment for Swinney. That would be on the list as well. You know, but he's going to get front pages, you know, for probably a couple of days at least, regardless of what he does. So it's going to be a high-profile visit, as long as there's no sort of gaffes. Maybe Stephen Flynn can go on holiday for the visit so he doesn't say anything stupid, or, you know, because there are a lot of SNP MPs and MSPs who despise Donald Trump and who thinks he's completely odious, and, you know, it would maybe take for one or two of them to say something publicly for Donald Trump to take the hump.
Maybe we'll invite Swinney to join him on the first tee when they open the golf course, and we'll get to see John Swinney try and hit a golf ball.
Yeah, that would be great.
Like, seriously, like, as if talking about Donald Trump for half an hour is not bad enough, I now have to talk about golf as well.
Well,
It's an unfortunate combination.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Trump totally hooks his tee shot at Turnberry, whacks it into the Firth of Clyde. That would be one of the sweetest moments in my
Is that some
journalistic
sort of
career.
golfing?
Although, according to some authors, if he does that, there'll be an aide just down off the fairway who'll drop another ball and go, oh, President, it's here.
He's just going to go, I didn't do that. That wasn't me.
That's one of the worst things.
Fake news.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the worst things you can say about a golfer, that they're a cheat. You can say anything you like about golfers. You cannot say that they're cheats. Donald Trump reputedly cheats at golf.
Although he is being sued for 10 billion. Sorry, he's suing
Murdoch
for 10 billion for making some sort of allegation. So
that's
just
true.
be
Yeah.
careful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure your copy
I
is
didn't
legal.
say he cheats at golf.
Allegedly.
Do you know
Allegedly
what I
cheats
would
at
love
golf.
though, right?
I think there's a book called Donald Trump Cheats at Golf. Sorry, go on.
I would actually love, like, as a journalist, to be kind of monsters by Donald Trump. You know, when these journalists ask him questions, he says, "Oh, you're a nasty, nasty person.
You're a nasty man."
Yeah, only an evil person would ask that question. Like, I would love it if he said that to me.
Well, you just have to ask the most obnoxious question.
Yeah.
sounds like a challenge.
Apart
Ask
from,
him about that card he sent to Epstein.
Apart from, exactly.
Yeah.
Apart from Swinney getting a bollock,
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
what would be the best possible story to come from this? Trump
minor stroke.
walkabout down Princess Street? That would be
No,
fun.
that's rubbish.
That'd be all right.
That's not a good news story.
Oh, it'd
That's
be
just
great.
a-
It'd be a hoot.
That's just covering an event.
No, I like that.
Donald Trump wants to buy Scotland.
What, the 52nd state after
After Greenland.
Yeah, that would be my.
Or is it not
top-
53rd after Canada? So Canada, Greenland, and then Scotland.
Yeah, that would be my dream story if we're playing fantasy newspapers right now.
I mean, the one person who isn't, and again, this would be a Dream Express story, but the one person who isn't buying into this visit and who is often in Scotland at this time of year is the King. You know, Trump is in Aberdeenshire, and yet there's no visit to, there's no invite to Balmoral, there's no.
But then is it not because he's
Swin-
going later on for the state visit?
Yeah, is that not separate? In September he's doing
Well, yeah,
that.
he's staying with Charles and Camilla at Windsor in September, but he's literally staying a few miles from the King's summer residence, and Charles is.
You never know. He might get
well-
a wee phone call and say he
Well,
wants to come
that
round.
would be my ideal.
That's your dream story.
King Charles comes to Scotland and hosts Trump at Balmoral.
Okay,
There you go.
Smitty, fantasy news story,
Oh, I don't know. Maybe declare independence for Turnberry, perhaps.
or Trump supports independence. That would give us some
there we
coffee.
are. There we are.
I might have to revise my
I think
opinion.
Swinney would have his head in his hands at that. The best possible move for the Union. So obviously he's flying in at a time of peril in terms of his presidency over the Epstein row. Just to be clear, it's Jeffrey Epstein,
Jeffrey
not
Epstein.
Brian Epstein. I
Yes,
think was
slip
the
of the
Beatles
tongue.
manager.
Senior moment.
So yeah, no, good to get that clarified. So for years there's been this theory peddled, some would call it a conspiracy theory, about this disgraced financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, basically
Peddled
procuring.
by Donald Trump. in
Yes,
part.
the theory being that Epstein was behind the procuring of young women, young girls for wealthy clients, and obviously Trump used to have a friendship with Epstein, but Trump's own administration effectively tried to shut down the story by saying there was no evidence of a client list, and that querying the fact that he killed himself is bogus as well. That's created a massive backlash amongst MAGA supporters. Trump is under huge pressure, and it looks like this row is going to follow him across the Atlantic into Turnberry, into Aberdeenshire, and if the American press are there, he's going to get grilled about this Epstein row while he's over in Scotland, which will be
and
particularly
he'll say
delicious.
you're a nasty, nasty person. Yeah, what I find, I mean, it's obviously a very serious sort of situation with Epstein. I'm not saying that is in any way amusing. What I find amusing is Donald Trump whipped up these conspiracy theories and got elected somewhat on the back of conspiracy theories being supported by conspiracy theorists. And now he's in government. He says, oh no, actually, all that stuff, nah, nothing to worry about. Like, what did he say about the Epstein files? He said, oh, they're sordid but boring or something. You know, it was like some very weird phrase.
Why would Trump be reluctant for the Epstein files to be published in full, do you think?
Do you have $10 billion?
Well, I mean,
Be very careful what you say.
I mean, it's a well-established fact that Trump and Epstein knew each other, and they attended the same events. They were, by all accounts, friends in the 90s as part of this sort of New York high life social scene. They were neighbours in Florida. What he's suing the Wall Street Journal over is this allegation that he sent Epstein a birthday card with a sort of crude drawing and a sort of suggestive remark. He says he didn't.
Yeah.
Trump's not known as the language doesn't sound very Trumpian but I don't know.
Well, yeah, but I think he's very different privately than he is in public. What he would say to like a private friend.
The strange thing is, though, this has been known for years, and he's known that he's an old friend of Epstein's, and yet he still said, when I get into power, I'll release the list, I'll release all the files, and now he's saying they don't exist. Or he's so what's changed? Because he must have known his name would be in there, but he must have thought, I'm in there, but so are a lot of other people.
Yeah.
There's no.
But think of
Clinton's name's in there. Andrew's name's in there.
But think about how much Trump in the past, how many times he's said one thing and then said, oh, I didn't say that, or he's managed to sort of wriggle his way out of it. So he probably thought, oh, I'll just kind of talk around that, you know. Or what I find also interesting is that he, well, not him personally, but members of his government are trying to suggest that one of the journalists who did the Wall Street Journal story previously did some work for the DOJ, and therefore it means that the DOJ have mocked up this letter, planted it with this journalist. You know, so it's like trying to counteract a conspiracy with another conspiracy.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, actually.
That is one of the most interesting things about Trump, his ability to create an alternate reality.
Yeah.
And for a big number of Americans to fall into line with that alternate reality, even though any logical exploration of the facts would say otherwise. That's one of his great political skills. And I don't think the Epstein files, Brian or Jeffrey, will necessarily do for Donald Trump, because I think he has enough clout with his own base, which is a large number of Americans, that they will forgive him anything.
But the thing is, this is like this. Obviously, this Epstein story is going to dominate the second term. The first term was all about Russia, and was he a puppet of Vladimir Putin, and was he controlled by the Kremlin? And we seem to have just that's disappeared. You never hear anyone say, oh, Trump's a Russian puppet anymore. And yet for 4 years, that's all we ever heard.
Yeah.
And then it was never proved. It was, and I think probably the same here. The American media think, right, we can really pin the president with this. It's, I mean, I'm a great admirer of the American media, the American press, but ever since Watergate, all American journalists ever want to do is bring down another president, and this is yet another attempt.
Don't we
at it.
all
Well,
dream
no,
of bringing down a president?
Yeah,
as
or a
journalists?
first minister.
Well, yeah.
I think if you look at what he said before the election on Epstein and the files, he was quite lukewarm about it. It felt like he was much more reluctant about publishing them than he was about the JFK files. I felt like if you read his actual words, there was an element of being pushed into it. He felt like he had to say it. He wasn't positive about it. It was caveated. Now he's got in again. He's not facing the electorate. He probably thinks, no chance am I doing that. Too many hostages to fortune.
But yeah, but it's also, you know, Jeffrey Epstein, obviously what he has done is so vile. And yes, there are, because of who he was, he had connections with so many high profile people. Just because you happen to be at a party with him, or you happen to do business with him or something, it doesn't mean that you were also involved in this sex trafficking thing. But so it's making him look. It's making him look as if he has something to hide by being so reluctant. Yeah. When actually, you know, I'm sure he would have an explanation for any contact that he'd had with him.
Absolutely. And even his most ardent supporters, I mean, those supporters within the Republican Party, for example, or maybe within certain parts of the American state, even if they support him very strongly because of his ideological positions, they know deep down that there could well be an element of truth to a lot of these allegations, because he just seems like the kind of guy who would be involved in sordid nonsense. I think everybody can see that in him.
Is this the new P tape? Remember there was that allegation about him being in a hotel room in Moscow.
That's it. But, you know, as
Don't
Ben
ever
says,
say that again.
It'll be the last time I see
he
it.
got away, you know, that seems to have been kind of forgotten about. You know, he'll be hoping that the Epstein row is forgotten about in the same way. But I think the people around Trump in America who facilitated him ought to really take a look at themselves, because they know themselves that he is a wrong 'un. And they've put him in a position of power where he, you know, he should be nowhere near it. And I think there's a lot of people in America, when the Trump era is finished, there'll be a lot of recriminations and a lot of people having to really explain why they felt it necessary to put this clearly, you know, ill-suited man into a position of power and authority. But, you know, that'll come eventually. It's not going to happen at Turnberry, I don't think.
It's no. I mean, also, the other thing with Turnberry's spectacular. I mean, what a great job!
Yes.
What a great job he's done with this golf course.
No
Sorry,
doubt
Hannah.
about that.
Eyeing up a press trip or
He's-
something
the,
there.
the hotel. I did actually get
Cost
a
of a pint is quite pricey.
I got a press trip there years ago, and it was very tired before Trump took it over. By all accounts, it's amazing now. The course up at Many's really good.
Have you all been to Turnberry?
Yeah.
Did you not get the invite?
Yeah, when was this?
Oh dear. So
The
that was just
Scottish
last week.
Police Federation had their conference
yeah.
there a few years ago.
Yeah, which I don't think they're particularly wanting to broadcast.
So I like how if there's a press conference, the American hacks are going to be asking about Epstein, and the Scottish hacks are going to be asking about a road next to Turnberry and
Yeah,
upgrades.
exactly.
Fantastic.
Quite right.
What do you think of Iron Brew?
Mr. Trump, are you for or against independence?
Yeah, exactly.
But we will be asking him and anyone who's there how much that police operation to bring him here has cost. Because I'm hearing on the grapevine that if your house gets robbed over this weekend, there's not much point in phoning the local boys in blue because they'll be too busy.
They'll be around on Wednesday.
Even less point than usual.
Yeah. But yeah, it's got to be a struggle for the police to cope, I think, with all the protests, with all the usual crime that goes on. And that's something that ought to be addressed. And, you know, has that been properly planned out, you know?
I mean, perhaps, again, you know, the politicians who are encouraging people to protest should be thinking about that as well. Perhaps one protest and just call it.
Oh, no, I would keep... The thing is, the one thing about the protests is, and I always think of this about protests, I love a protest. I think there should be more protests. But see, the minute you start to disrupt ordinary working class people going about their business or their lives, you lose them at that point. So the protest becomes... self-defeating. So I hope the protests keep that in mind. I hope the protesters keep that in mind, that whatever they do, don't make life harder for ordinary folk trying to get to their work and all the rest of it, because you'll just give fuel to the other side. So I hope the protesters do keep it peaceful. I hope they keep it colourful. I hope they keep it maybe a wee bit imaginative, but I hope they keep on the right side of the law.
Janie Godley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In what way?
Remember her famous placard?
Oh yes,
Trump is a...
Yes, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
yes,
like
that sort
with
of
a
thing.
Scottish humour.
Yes, that would be nice. That would be
Yes.
nice.
Bampot. Okay, well, look, roll on the circus. It's going to be great to cover. Thanks very much to Hannah, Ben and Mark for joining me. You can listen to this episode of Planet Holyrood on Spotify or Apple Music, or watch it on the Daily Record YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok for the latest news and best bits of the podcast.
We will never turn our back on a single Scot.
We've got to wrestle with those challenges.
This is the same nonsense we have heard time and time again.
This is our country. Let's fix it together.